Pharmacist Ben.
Mr. AJ, what is up, my friend? Good to see you.
Great to see you too. Is that intro too long?
A little bit on the long side, but I was dancing, so that's cool.
Yeah, we
Plug in.
gotta talk to our executive producer over there. She's gotta work on that thing.
Yeah, cut it a little. It's good tune, though. It's good. It was entertaining. What's
Okay,
going on? How you feeling today?
Pharmacist Ben, I didn't discuss with you our topics today.
I
Did
know.
you?
You surprised me.
I did text you, but it doesn't look like you saw it.
I didn't see a text from you. What did you ask me? Did you ask me something?
So I did, and the questions had to do with orthomolecular medicine.
Okay.
When they do those injections you know clearly.
Ortho means good or okay or healthy, good for you. Molecular is molecules. Orthomolecular medicine is the medicine of good molecules. Put it that way. Orthomolecular, the medicine of good molecules, meaning nutrition. Matter of fact, hang on a quick second here, because I just looking at my desk. Check this out.
Can't see a thing. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Can you read? Can you see this? I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, orthomolecular medicine for what?
Everyone. This was written by the guy named Abram Hoffer, who is known as the father of orthomolecular medicine. And Abram Hoffer was a physician who, in the 1950s, I believe, 50s and 60s, he started using nutritional supplement nutrients for various health challenges, specifically niacin. It was his claim to fame was he was using niacin to treat schizophrenics and also zinc. Zinc and niacin, another guy named Carl Pfeiffer wrote a book on zinc for mental health challenges. And, it's really important to understand that our knowledge about nutritional nutrients, what we call the mighty 90 essential nutrients, it's only about 120 years old, 130 years old. About the late 19th century, the 1890s, as I've told the story before, they started to suspect that there were molecules in food that were not proteins, that were not fats, and that were not carbohydrates, but had effects on health. This was a radical idea. For thousands and thousands of years, when people saw a piece of food, say a piece of bread, they just knew about the big stuff, the proteins and the fats and the carbohydrates, because they're in the foods in large quantities. But the vitamins and the minerals and the fatty acids and the what's the third one? The amino acids, fourth one, they're in very tiny concentrations. So we didn't have the detection mechanisms, and nobody really suspected that there were these tiny little molecules in foods that were responsible for health, and whose lack, or if these molecules were deficient, they would cause diseases. Then they started to do some experiments, and technology started to get advanced, and they could start to see things at smaller and smaller scales. And that's when they noticed that there were these incredible little molecules, akin to pixie dust, that had powerful effects on health. Cut to the 1950s, and they started to experiment with using these substances to treat diseases, and that was the beginnings of what's called orthomolecular medicine. Now, the drug industry, being as entrenched and having lots of money, being subsidized by the government, etc., they trumped anything that these nutritional orthomolecular scientists and orthomolecular clinicians were experimenting with. So nobody really knew about it. So you had to go to some kind of really advanced or outside the box physician to use these kinds of things. Dr. Abram Hoffer was such an outside the box physician. Same with Dr. Carl Pfeiffer and ultimately Dr. Wallach and a few other people. But in the 1940s and 1950s, this was still a very new idea. So when Abram Hoffer came up with these ideas, it was still considered to be on the fringes. And the pharmacomedical model has this way of marginalizing and dismissing ideas that aren't conventional and aren't mainstream, much like the situation today. So orthomolecular medicine to the mainstream is just now starting to make some inroads from the 1950s when it began. So it's taken 70 years. And even today, it's not really that orthomolecular science or orthomolecular clinical work is still not respected or leveraged as much as it can be, except for present company, of course, here on this call and folks in longevity. I can't hear you, AJ. Are you muted?
Okay, yes, I'm sorry about that. The question was, the person who put the question to us, kind of insinuated that they're using all 90 essential nutrients
No,
in the process. Number,
no.
number one.
Orthomolecular medicine is using specific nutrients to treat disease. I call it allopathic nutrition because it's still doctoring. It's not treating the entire system with the mighty 9 essential nutrients the way we do at Longevity. It's still targeting things. Oh, you got mental health issues or schizophrenia, in this case, psychosis, use niacin. Oh, you've got skin problems, use zinc. Oh, you got a heart problem, use selenium. I don't really feel comfortable with that kind of approach, which I call allopathic nutrition. Allo means against, pathy means disease. So you've heard the term allopathy, right?
Yes.
Allopathic medicine fights disease. Allo meaning fighting or against, and pathy meaning disease. This is what allopathic medicine does. It uses medicine to fight disease. What I'm careful about, and sometimes I use this strategy, but not a lot, is allopathic nutrition, where you use nutrients to fight disease. See, disease is the end result of a holistic biochemical breakdown in the body. Occasionally, somebody will be deficient in one nutrient, and then some kind of symptom will show up. But for the most part, it's a global systemic biochemical breakdown. So when people say, oh, I have this health challenge, what do I take? What do I always say? Go back to the triangle. You go back to the toxicity that's entering into the bloodstream through the intestine. You have to deal with nutritional deficiencies that are the end result of inflammation or disturbances at the level of the intestine, because nutrients are absorbed through the intestine, a very complicated process. Work on metabolic issues, that is blood sugar issues and insulin issues, and then the adrenal thyroid complex. If somebody's full-blown deficient in a nutrient, yeah, you're going to have a deficiency disease, but that doesn't really happen that much. Disease is usually the end result of toxicity that enters into the bloodstream, malabsorption of nutrients or lack of nutrients, metabolic issues and blood sugar issues, metabolic meaning blood sugar issues and insulin issues, and stress and hypothyroidism. From that point, those 3 points, that is, you end up with all of the other diseases, autoimmune diseases and mental health issues, movement disorders, organic brain issues, cancer, heart disease, all the other diagnoses. And this is the theory, the model of the triangle of disease. So orthomolecular medicine is using nutrients rather than using drugs, but not necessarily one particular nutrient. If you're using one particular nutrient to treat a health challenge, you're dealing with allopathic nutrition, fighting disease by using a nutrient like it's a drug. Mm-hmm. I like looking at the whole body systemically and seeing what's wrong metabolically in terms of toxicity and in terms of malabsorption of nutrients.
I agree wholeheartedly, and we do hear now and then of people getting vitamin C injections and that sort of thing, and I can imagine that can be helpful. But
absolutely, there are times. Vitamin C is one of these. Is a very unusual nutrient, and I've always described it as the Babe Ruth of nutrients. There's baseball players, and then there's Babe Ruth, right? There's nutrients, and then there's vitamin C. Vitamin C has this superstar quality, and it has a superstar quality which is made even more dramatic by the fact that it's such a simple molecule with zero toxicity and a real ease of detoxification, ease of elimination, we'll say. It doesn't have to be detoxified, it has to be eliminated. So the combination of ease of elimination, the simplicity of the molecule, it's really wide-ranging, as we say in biochemistry, pleiotropic effects. Pleiotropic means multifunctional effects. It means you can use vitamin C almost like a panacea. It's good for everything. And so that stands out. But the other nutrients aren't quite like that. So you have to make an exception with vitamin C. Vitamin C injections would be great for everybody. And if we really cared about health in this country, we'd have IV vitamin C for everybody. Not to mention cancer patients or heart disease patients or people who are dealing with full-blown health challenges, but just everybody, because it is a panacea in that way that it covers a whole wide range of health challenges, including just stress. It's just an anti-stress nutrient and an immune-boosting nutrient just for dealing with immune challenges like viruses and bacteria.
I'd rather ingest my vitamin C. I don't want a shot of anything.
Well, God forbid, if you had to have a serious disease, 50, large amounts of vitamin C, grams of vitamin C injected into the blood. The problem with high doses of vitamin C taken orally is it can cause, it's very hygroscopic, water absorbing. And so when you take vitamin C in high doses, say a gram or 2 grams all at once, it can cause some bloating or some gas or for some abdominal distension, diarrhea. In fact, high doses of vitamin C taken orally can have a laxative effect for people who are chronically constipated. Not a comfortable laxative effect, though, more for emergencies. So high doses of vitamin C can have taken orally, can lead to intestinal issues that you can bypass by using injections or IV.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. So I have another question about chlorine dioxide.
Yes, I see it. I see your text here. Chlorine dioxide is a oxidizing agent. It's a bleach of sorts. So it has some health benefits in terms of killing things. It can kill bacteria. It's an antiseptic, for example, like hydrogen peroxide is the same idea. Hydrogen peroxide has a molecule of oxygen that is loose. And that loose oxygen can be released and it can kill things. Oxygen has an oxidizing effect and kills things. It's an antiseptic. Chlorine dioxide is pretty much the same thing. And the chlorine probably also helps too. Chlorine also kills things. Chlorine dioxide, though, is being recommended now for cancer, for the latest viral infection, which we're not allowed to mention, because of its ability to kill things. And there are products that have chlorine dioxide in them. It has to be stabilized, so it's a little bit tricky to get products like that, and there's not a lot of them. So you'll see them advertised as stabilized chlorine dioxide drops. And these kinds of things can have antiseptic value. And then there is some research that shows that it may have an ability to prevent cancer metastases, again, via oxidation, via this oxygen molecule that's released. But it's not nutrition. Mm-hmm. It's not a nutritional thing. It's more medicinal or antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, anti-cancer molecule or substance.
What might be your more holistic
from a nutritional standpoint?
Holistically, yeah, nutrition.
That's a really great question. Let me tell you, and I think it's important. You can't treat nutrients like drugs. Chlorine dioxide is in the drug world. It kills things. It's powerful. It has to be cleansed out of the body. This is not the world of nutrients. So there's no one-to-one correspondence between nutrients and a drug or nutrients and an antimicrobial chemical. It's not a one-to-one correspondence. Nutrients, this is a very important distinction here. Nutrients help the body do the work. The nutrients don't do the work directly. They give the cells the raw material so the cells can do the work. Drugs, chlorine dioxide being classified as drug, those do the work. The drugs are a way of saying, hey, we're in charge here. We're going to tell you what to do to the body, to the cell. Nutrition says, here, eat, manja, nutriate yourself, get strong, and then you do the work. See the difference? When you have a drug and the drugs or the practitioner or the dispenser of the drug says, hey, we're in charge. You're going to die now, or you're going to stop making acid, or you're going to stop chewing up bone in the case of a bisphosphonate drug. There's always going to be a price to be paid for that. Whenever you force the body to do something, you may get an effect, but that very forcing, that very compulsion that's being created by this foreign molecule that is in essence a poison, not metaphorically, literally a poison, while it may have an effect on blood pressure or on blood sugar or whatever system you're targeting, you're going to pay a price. Whether that price is a significant price or whether it's not a significant price depends on the molecule, depends on the drug, depends on the amount you're using. But you don't have that problem with nutrients because you're allowing the body to make the decision. A drug overrides the body. A nutrient supports the body. This is a philosophical position that the practitioner or that we as consumers take. Are we going to take the philosophical position that we're smarter than the body, The body's stupid. It's making mistakes, and we're going to tell the body what to do. And damn it, we're going to fix this body no matter what it takes. Or are we going to take the position, hey, the body has got millions of years of evolution behind it. From a cellular perspective, it's got billions of years of evolution behind it. Maybe the body knows what to do if it has the resources to do what it needs to do. So there's a philosophical difference between treating the body with a drug or medicine and treating the body with nutrition. You can't say, oh, I'm on a beta blocker. What nutrients can I take that will duplicate the beta blocker? Because the beta blocker is like Muhammad Ali in the ring. Boom, boom, boom. The nutrient is like your grandmother, right? How is your grandmother going to be able to compete with Muhammad Ali, right? But your grandmother loves you. Muhammad Ali doesn't care about you. The boxer doesn't care about you. Your grandmother wants you strong, wants you healthy. That's not what the drug does. And let me be clear, as a pharmacist who studied medicine for 40 years, there is no drug that will make you healthy. There are drugs that will change your symptomology, and there are drugs perhaps that will kill bacteria, antibiotics, of course, or antifungals if you're dealing with a fungal infection, and those are important, but you're not going to be better off with a drug, with the exception of you won't have the bacteria, the fungus, or whatever the microbes are that you're trying to attack. Now, you'll change your symptom, you'll lower your blood pressure, you'll make your insulin more sensitive, or you'll drop your blood sugar, or you'll suppress bone remodeling in the case of osteoporosis. You can mask symptomology, but the environment of the body cannot be made better with a drug, with the exception, as I say, of killing bacteria or killing microbes. Does that make sense? And I'm not Pollyannish about this. I always tell people, you want pain pills in your medicine cabinet. You want Vicodin or hydrocodone or Percocet or whatever it is that's your favorite pain pill. You want in your medicine cabinet, because when you break your leg or you fall off your bike or, garage door hits you on the head, you want to have some pain pills in there. And antibiotics, of course, they have a dark side, but they've changed the face of modern medicine and extended lifespans, and they've done a lot of good, even with their dark side. With the exception of antibiotics and pain pills, there's no way you can be better off by using a prescription drug.
Understood. Because as you said, it deals with the symptomology and doesn't address the root.
Not going to make you cannot restore the body to a healthy, the bodily environment to a healthy state with a drug. You can change the symptom, that's for sure, but you can't make the body healthier. Although, a case can be made for antimicrobials making the body healthier, I suppose. But you can't change the biochemistry, the metabolism of the body with a drug in a way that makes the body better or healthier, we'll say.
So Pharmacist Ben, you shared an article that talked about a lot of things, but one thing that I found interesting is now they're talking about using B1 for Alzheimer's.
Well, where did you hear me talk about B1? I love B1. If I had to pick a favorite vitamin, it would be B1. It's the first vitamin was ever discovered. Very important for the nervous system. Obviously, the brain is important for the nervous system. Vitamin B1, also known as thiamine, is also critical for sugar metabolism and for processing alcohol as well. So the more sugar you're eating, and that includes bread and cereal and pasta and rice and potatoes, as well as alcohol, the more thiamine or vitamin B1 you're burning up, you're burning through. Because thiamine deficiency can cause nerve issues, including brain issues, digestive issues, because the intestine is regulated by the nervous system, cardiovascular issues, because the heart is regulated by the nervous system, peripheral neuropathies, because those are neuropathies, obviously, is pathology of the neurons. Thiamine deficiency is likely a hidden secondary to, I should say, thiamine deficiency secondary to eating too much sugar or drinking too much alcohol or eating just junk food all the time, is likely behind a lot of conditions that are considered to be mental health conditions, such as ADD in children, or emotional issues in children, or learning disabilities in children, problems with dementia and cognitive decline as we get older. How many people who have suffering from Alzheimer's disease or cognitive issues as they get older are being tested for their thiamine levels, or are chronically ingesting sugar or drinking alcohol. So we don't check for these things, but we know that thiamine deficiency is associated with all of these neural health challenges, including Alzheimer's disease. By the way, vitamin B3 is very similar in that way. Niacin is very similar in that way. Niacin deficiency is also associated with mental health issues, and niacin is also part of the way involved in how the body processes sugar. So it's one thing to be eating a lot of sugar, and again, bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, cereals, junk foods, those are all sugar. Pizza and potato chips, these are all sugar. They're hidden, we don't think of them as sugar, but they're sugar. So do we know that, is it possible that our Alzheimer's disease epidemic is predicted something like 30 or 40% of Americans are going to have, older Americans over the age of 60 or 70 are going to have dementia issues by the year 2050? It's exploding around the world. Do we know that these aren't due to simple nutritional deficiencies following excess ingestion of sugar? Well, 75% almost of the American caloric intake is junk food, is ultra processed food, which is super high in carbohydrates. How do we know? It seems logical to me to at least check it out. One of the hidden places where thiamine deficiency shows up, check this out, is in chronic constipation. There's a condition called GI, gastrointestinal, beriberi. Now, you know beriberi, your favorite, right?
That's right, yeah.
Beriberi is a neural disease that is caused by thiamine deficiency. Full-blown thiamine deficiency. Beriberi is Swahili for
I can't,
I can't, right?
That's right.
And that's because beriberi is marked by an inability to move because your nerves don't work. Now, beriberi, when people think of beriberi, they usually think of things like peripheral neuropathies or cramping or cardiovascular issues or mental health issues, but there's a condition called GI beriberi, gastrointestinal beriberi. And this is a type of beriberi that affects the intestine. When you have GI beriberi, you can't propel food down the digestive tract and outside the body, and that manifests itself as long-term chronic constipation. If you're dealing with long-term chronic constipation, get yourself on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine or the Ultimate Multi or the Ultimate Daily, both of which are great sources of vitamin B1. If you're diabetic, if you have blood sugar problems, Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Ultimate Daily, both of which are great sources of vitamin B1, which help your body process sugar. If you're drinking a lot of alcohol, same thing. In fact, if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, I know I've told you this before, but it's an interesting story. If you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you may end up hallucinating or having delusions. They call that alcoholic psychosis. It happens when people drink a lot. And they'll start to get delusional and they'll hallucinate and they'll see pink elephants, the cartoons of seeing pink elephants and little leprechauns and such. If you go to the drunk tank with alcoholic psychosis, they pick you up off the street and you're talking to yourself or pink elephants or leprechauns, whatever. They'll take you to the drunk tank and they'll put thiamine right into your bloodstream. They'll inject you with vitamin B1 and instantly you'll be cured. I have a friend who has been to the ER more than once, the ICU actually more than once, because she can't stop drinking alcohol. Every time she goes to the hospital, yeah, I know, it's terrible. Every time she goes to the hospital, what's the first thing they put in her blood? Thiamine, vitamin B1, because of the burden that is placed on the body following vitamin B1 deficiency, which is associated with excess ingestion of alcohol.
Oh, that's unfortunate and informative. So, when you mentioned the thiamine deficiency, and I'm more familiar with your conversation around niacin.
Yes.
And the effect of niacin.
Yes.
What about
niacin may arguably be the most important vitamin. The reason I say that is because niacin is the one vitamin that the body will actually make under deficiency conditions. It won't make a lot of it, but it will actually make it if it has to. There's no other vitamins the body can make. Niacin, there are some biochemical pathways that will turn the amino acid tryptophan into niacin. Mm-hmm. So niacin that's how important niacin is. And as I say, Dr. Abraham Hoffer used it medicinally in when he was treating schizophrenia and psychoses.
So, you're kind of mentioning that for brain health, when people are dealing with the Alzheimer's, that it might be beneficial to have a B complex, a good absorbable B complex.
BTT, Beyond Tangy Tangerine, is one of the best B complex supplements you'll ever use. It's liquid. It goes right to work. I know I've told this before. My dad had Alzheimer's, and I would go visit him in the nursing home, and I just have to sneak the Beyond Tangy Tangerine in because they didn't want him to have it. And I would I'd make him a little Beyond Tangy Tangerine drink, and he would drink it. And almost exactly as he was drinking it, I could see him getting better. The clarity in his eyes, and he was becoming more focused as he was drinking his Beyond Tangy Tangerine. It was the most amazing thing. And then, I would leave, and I couldn't leave him the BTT. He wasn't totally lucid, so I couldn't leave him the BTT. He wouldn't know what to do with it. And next time I go visit, he was back. He was in his deteriorated state. So I would have to keep treating him that way. The greatest gift you could give your parents or your grandparents or anybody you know who's in a facility, a nursing home facility with cognitive decline, is the gift of Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Christmas is coming up. You can't give a better gift than this stuff right here to folks who are anybody really, but to folks who are in a nursing home or in a facility of any kind, assisted living or anything like that.
Well, we don't have a ton of questions. I just want to ask. I want to ask you, unless we get some more questions, I want to ask you because I have an MD who's now joining our team.
I want to talk to him.
Well, you have to talk to him. It's mandatory because there's the biochemical relationship. I can sort of explain some things, but obviously I'm no pharmacist, Ben, and it needs your touch on it. But I'd like you to just address a little bit why someone in the medical side of things might want to incorporate what we do into what they do.
That is a great question. And in order to answer that question, I am going to read from you what is called the Hippocratic Oath. Have you ever heard of that?
Well, you're supposed to do no harm?
First, do no harm. That's the first thing in the Hippocratic. That's one of the most important elements of the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. There's even more than that. It says, I will give, and I'm paraphrasing here. It says, I will give no substance that is regarded as a poison.
Mm.
How do you like that? It's right in the Hippocratic Oath.
Does it say that? Wow.
It says literally, it says, I will give no substance that is regarded as a poison. Right there in the Hippocratic Oath. Now, they don't say it all the time anymore, unfortunately. But, it's right there in the Hippocratic Oath. So if you are really a physician or a healthcare professional who's dedicated to whatever, the Hippocratic Oath, whatever in the Hippocratic Oath, it's a no-brainer. In the Hippocratic Oath, I'm reading here right out of it, to prescribe, I pledge to prescribe only beneficial treatments according to his abilities and judgment, and refrain from causing harm or hurt. What's the definition of a prescription drug? It shuts off a part of the body. Not the definition, but what's the mechanism of a prescription drug? It shuts off part of the body. It's literally a poison, which violates the Hippocratic Oath. That's all you got to see. In fact, all doctors should be using nutrition first. Here's the Hippocratic Oath. I will apply for the benefit of the sick all measures that are required, avoiding those traps of over-treatment and therapeutic nihilism. You know what that means, therapeutic nihilism? Therapeutic nihilism, when you say this guy's going to die anyway, it's not going to make a difference. It's called therapeutic nihilism. And then there's another one. Let me find where it says, I will prevent disease wherever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure. I will remember that I do not treat a fever chart, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being.
Wow.
These are all in the Hippocratic Oath, right? And we don't, like I say, they don't, I'm pretty sure medical students don't say the Hippocratic Oath anymore.
That sounds like what we do.
Right? This is the Hippocratic Oath is called the Hippocratic Oath because it was written by Hippocrates, the father of medicine.
And they really don't say this anymore, huh?
I think they stopped saying it. I can't swear that. I don't know. But I think they did stop saying that. I wanted to find the one part where they'd say that it will administer no poison or abortifacient for that matter.
Where does a hypocrite come from?
Hypocrite is a liar, as somebody who does one thing and says another.
Is that the root?
No. Hippocrates is Hippocrates, Hippocrates. Hypocrite is Hypocrite. It's different, completely different word.
Okay. All right. So
that's what you should tell. To answer your question, that's what you should be telling your doctor friend is nutritional orthomolecular medicine, if you will, is exactly what the Hippocratic Oath promotes.
Well, I hope when you speak to them, you'll give something more supportive, than slapping them in the face with their reluctance to do what they promised to do.
No, I don't do that. I have a lot of friends who are doctors. Listen, I think doctors are beautiful people for the most part. There's like in any group of human beings, there's going to be the bad apples.
Bad everywhere.
Right. But for the most part, and I have a ton of friends who are physicians, they're beautiful, good, kind, understanding, open-minded people for the most part. And they just want to do what's best. They get the same thing as pharmacists. We got into the business because we love human beings. We want to help people. The tools, unfortunately, for helping people have been co-opted by economic and financial interests. And there's nowhere near as much money to be made in nutritional supplements, which at the end of the day are generic and non-patented, as there are in drugs. So the economic model has skewed our therapeutic strategies toward pharmaceuticals and towards medicines, irregardless of the fact that nobody has a drug deficiency and drugs always poison the body by their very mechanism. So the real problem is the pharmacomedical model, the paradigm, not the individual practitioners who by and large are really good, beautiful people, and a lot of whom I'm proud to call my friends.
I know you love people. There's no question about that.
Well, I do. I want to help. I do love people. I do love humanity, and I want to help people. But I'm saying physicians themselves should never be blamed for the ills or the problems associated with the pharmacomedical paradigm or the pharmacomedical model or centralized medicine, which is more about financial and economic interests at the end of the day than it is about helping human beings. The individual physician doesn't fall into that category.
That did not escape me. And we have questions pouring in.
Oh, pouring in now. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you know why? Because you thought you were going to have an early dinner, and now
I thought all right.
Okay.
I'm here to serve.
Okay. What can I do to prevent sebaceous hyperplasia?
Okay.
On my face, I get small white bumps from sebaceous glands clogging up, and nothing seems to help get rid of them.
Well, you haven't done everything. So first of all, topically, you can use retinol, and that will get rid of them superficially. But the real problem is metabolic. And as Rebecca knows, and probably you know at this point, one of the signs of metabolic syndrome is hyperproliferation of cells. Hyperproliferation, that is rapid growth of tissue, cells should always be regarded as first and foremost an insulin and blood sugar issue. Estrogen is also sometimes involved. So between estrogen, female hormone estrogen, which is a growth substance, and insulin, which is a growth substance, and sugar, which leads to elevated insulin, there's your the most important causes of hypersebaceous or any kind of cysts or boils or polyps or any kind of growth. So what he's talking about, hypersebaceous proliferation, the proliferation of sebocytes. Sebocytes are cells that make sebum. They're derivatives of skin cells, of keratinocytes. It's just a hyperproliferative condition. Interestingly, cells are designed to grow and proliferate. To put the brakes on proliferation, that requires nutrition. Their default state of a cell is to grow and it's to proliferate. So under conditions of deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies, in conjunction with revving up the system, mostly with sugar, also the hormone estrogen, as I say, is involved. Estrogen is a growth hormone. That's when you run into your problems with cysts and polyps and growths of all kinds. So always regard any kind of growth that's inappropriate first and foremost as a metabolic issue. That's metabolic syndrome, healthy blood sugar pack. And then secondly, the female hormone estrogen, which is a little bit trickier. In order to deal with estrogen issues, you got to work on, as we've talked about a lot, bile, liver, intestine, digestive health, and make sure you're using your fatty nutrients, particularly your ultimate EFAs, ultimate selenium, which is a mineral that's somewhat involved with the fatty system of the body, and then also fatty vitamins like vitamin A and vitamin D, healthy start pack, healthy blood sugar pack, and you might want to throw in, if there's an estrogen issue, you might want to throw in the Zerofem. Okay,
so now you didn't specifically say leaky gut, but would I-26 be something that you want to use in this case?
There's an estrogen component, yes, and always metabolic syndrome, which is the second point in the triangle disease, follows blood sugar issues. Hyperinsulinemia and elevated blood sugar are associated with leaky gut and with bile and gallbladder and liver issues.
Okay. So Dylan, if you have questions and need some assistance, you're going to email us at questions@dailywithdoc.com. And that email address is on the screen for anyone who's got a question. So the next question is from our friend Barbara. If a person doesn't have a gallbladder, is it possible to take too many enzymes? I seem to get indigestion when I take ultimate enzymes.
It depends on how many they take. I wouldn't say it was the ultimate enzymes that are causing the indigestion, but I'd want to know how many they were taking. I don't think you can't really take too much and cause a problem. Although, if she doesn't have a gallbladder, there could be all kinds of things that are causing indigestion. Lack of a gallbladder and indigestion go hand in hand because the gallbladder is part of the digestive process, and without a gallbladder, you're going to have you can have indigestion. I wouldn't necessarily blame the enzymes. I would want to know other things that are going on. What kind of foods is she eating when she's taking her enzymes, for example? That would be important. Also, when you take the enzymes, you want to take them with something acidic. It requires stomach acid to activate the enzymes. If she's not making stomach acid, and a lot of people aren't making enough stomach acid, she's not going to be able to activate her enzymes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, our good friend Albert is Becca.
I have a question in regards to the enzyme. Things that
Yes.
Dr. Wallach recommends is based on weight. Enzymes fall into that as well.
Enzymes don't really fall into that category. Digestive enzymes don't, because they're staying in the digestive system. So it's not the whole body that's getting the enzymes. It's the stomach, basically. So it doesn't really matter. You can weigh 300 pounds. You're going to have pretty much the same size stomach as somebody who weighs 100 pounds. Your stomach's not changing. So you don't need to dose your enzymes based on weight, in my opinion, because it's staying in the stomach. If you want the enzymes distributed, the reason docs talks about, and this is kind of like, a little old school, to dose based on weight, is because you got to distribute all the nutrients through the body. So if you weigh 300 pounds, there's a lot more to distribute than if you weigh 100 pounds, right? And that's the idea of dosing according to weight. We use that in pharmacy a lot with medicine. Nutrients is not quite as important as drugs, but with drugs, they'll always dose with weight because drugs are so powerful.
And Barbara's mentioning she takes one enzyme at a time, maybe.
That absolutely will not cause indigestion. Okay. I can tell you that definitively. One enzyme is not going to cause indigestion.
So should she be taking two enzymes and keeping it up with apple cider vinegar?
That's one way to do it, and this is one way to determine how many enzymes you need with your meal, is to take your enzymes with apple cider vinegar or aloe or noni juice or something that's acidic, and then see how much relief you get from your digestive issues, and then take another, the next time you eat, take a second, and then see if you got more relief. And then if you did, you say, okay, now I need two. And then the next time you take three and see if you got more relief. And then you'll reach a point eventually where you don't notice more relief. So you take 5 and you don't notice more relief from 4, you'll know 4 is where you need to be. And it will also depend on how much you ate or the kind of foods you ate. So you got to play around with the enzymes a little bit. But I can tell you one ultimate enzyme is not going to cause indigestion, especially if you had a gallbladder And keep in mind, this is very important. There's 500,000 gallbladders removed out of people's bodies every year. So keep this in mind. If you had a gallbladder removed, presumably you had your gallbladder removed because you had gallstones or some kind of gallbladder problem. The gallstones and the gallbladder problem is associated with the digestive system and foods, and that problem is not going to be resolved by taking the gallbladder out. In fact, it's going to be made worse. You may not know because now you don't have a gallbladder to have stones in, but you haven't corrected the problem. And this is the flaw in the medical model, is we don't correct the problem. And because we hide the symptom, which at the end of the day is there to tell us we have a problem, now our problem is going to get worse because we've lost the barometer, the signal, the metric that's telling us we have a problem. It's like somebody comes to you, AJ, and says your house is burning down. And instead of putting the fire out, you take some duct tape and wrap it around this guy's mouth so you don't have to hear him telling you there's a fire. That's how stupid it is, right? You know? And then what's going to happen to your house?
Yeah, exactly.
Your neighbor comes over, AJ, there's smoke in your house. Oh, shut up. You hit him on the head with a hammer. I don't want to hear you from you. Your house burns down. And this is the problem. And I'm not blaming doctors. It's the model.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Becca, did you have a follow-up or?
That's all on that. But if he has time for a question, I've got a question.
Okay. Well, we have other questions that are more important than your question. I'm just joking. I like messing with Becca when we're on this platform because I can't mess with her on the other platform. I'm just joking, boss. What's your question?
So that's 40 years old, Ben, 330 pounds. He is on a keto diet. He has schizoid disorder and major depressive disorder. He's wanting to know what he needs to treat it. Now, I do know that he does drink diet drinks, and the ones that he mentioned to me are with aspartame. Don't know if that helps or hinders.
Okay, I'm not hearing everything you're saying because there's a little bit of echo and you're cutting out a bit, but I got the gist of it. A couple things. What we have to recognize is when you're overweight, when you have you're carrying a lot of body fat, there's a serious metabolic disturbance. 330 pounds. I don't know how tall this guy is, but assuming he's just like, not 6'8" or something, and, a defensive or an offensive lineman, I'm assuming that he's normal height and he's just very overweight. That's telling me there's a major metabolic and hormonal disturbance. Body fat makes hormones. Fat cells make hormones. So the more body fat you're carrying, the more your hormones, particularly your estrogen and your steroid hormones, are going to be thrown off. And that can cause all kinds of havoc for every single system in the body. Secondly, if his metabolic syndrome is so severe that he's at 330 pounds, which is pretty seriously, assuming his regular height, normal height, it's pretty severely obese, that's telling me there's major digestive problems as well. Remember, to have that kind of significant dysglycemia and metabolic issues at the second point in the triangle of disease, you got to have some pretty serious stuff going on in the first point in the triangle of disease, the digestive system. When you have leaky gut, toxic chemicals can get into the bloodstream that will mess up your brain, that will cause mental health problems, including depression and including schizoaffective, which is like psychosis or schizophrenia kinds of issues. We know there's a major link between gut bacteria and mental health. That's why autistic children are often, or autism, I should say, is often caused by dysbiosis. Nobody ever checks for dysbiosis when people have depression or when people have schizophrenia, but you can bet your bottom dollar there's going to be some element of that involved. So I'm sure this guy, if he's been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, and then what was the other thing you said?
It's major depressive disorder.
Yeah, depression and schizoaffective disorder, mental health issues. He has not been checked for dysbiosis, for gut bacteria. I'm sure he hasn't, but that's probably where everything's starting because that's where everything starts off. So for this gentleman, AJ, I-26, to your point, I-26 is a must. Food diary is a must. When he does a food diary, notice which foods make his mental health challenges worse And he'll see that certain foods, particularly sugars and refined carbohydrates and ultra-processed food, and this gentleman's drinking a lot of diet soda, he's probably eating a lot of ultra-processed food as well. All of those can have a major impact on mental health, organic brain health, as well as causing nutritional deficiencies, which can in turn lead to brain and mental health issues. So I'd be working with food diary, I-26, ultimate enzymes, ultimate microbiome, nightly essence, and metabolic issues, healthy blood sugar pack, ultimate niacin, ultimate selenium, anything you do for blood sugar and digestion. Remember, it's really important when people have these kinds of very out of control health challenges that you start off with leverage, meaning you use as little nutrients as possible, as little product as possible to get maximum results, rather than, this is my opinion, I know other people have different opinions, rather than try to throw everything but the kitchen sink at it. Work with leverage, work with the most powerful nutrients you have so that he can see the results. And just something as simple as doing a food diary can be very instructive for this guy. He's going to notice certain foods I eat make my problems worse. Just something like using the I-26 to kill off the bad bacteria, or using the nightly essence to restore the good bacteria, can have a huge effect. And I think I talked about this before. I don't remember where I talked about this, but this is called elegance. In science, we have a concept called, did I talk about it with you guys, with you, AJ? In science, there's a concept called elegance. Like, when you wear an elegant dress, Becca, it's a dress that's beautiful, but doesn't have a lot of bling, right? It's just beautiful, smooth. And that's what elegance means. When somebody's elegant, they're not dramatic and they don't have a lot of flair, but they just look good. A scientific experiment that's elegant is where you get a massive result or conclusion from just a simple idea. And likewise, with nutritional supplementations, we want elegance. We want to get as much bang for our buck, as much benefit, as much health benefit from as little products as we can use. And that's why I love the Healthy Start Pack so much. The Healthy Start Pack is one of the most elegant ways to get the Mighty 90 essential nutrients into your system that I know of. It probably is the most elegant way to get your Mighty 90 essential nutrients. And the Beyond Tangy Tangerine is the essence of elegance. This defines elegance. It's one little jar for $70, and it is so powerful, and it's good for so many different systems in the body, and it's so easy to use. You just put it in your darn water bottle and drink it down. It is the most, in terms of nutritional supplementation, this is the quintessence of elegance, Beyond Tangy Tangerine, and that's why I talk about it so much.
Okay, so I had a couple follow-ups to that, and we have other questions, so don't run.
7 minutes.
Number
5.
Oh man, Ben. Okay, food diary. I'm just gonna say, Barbara and everyone that we've talked about today, keep that food diary and note. And when you mentioned note the amount of enzymes you might take, keep that in the food diary as well, so that you have a record of how you felt, etc. I have a quick question. Why does the body fat create hormones?
Because hormones are made in adipocytes. Cyte means cell. Adipo means fat. An adipocyte is a fat cell. And fat cells make hormones, particularly steroid hormones like estrogen, which means the more fat cells you have, the more active your fat cells are, the more estrogen and female hormone you're going to make. And this is very important for men. This accounts for what I call the Santa Claus effect. The Santa Claus effect is when men get older. This is what you got to look forward to, Mr. AJ. When men get older, they get fat and jolly. I call that the Santa Claus effect.
He refuses to
they
get
lose
old.
their edge. AJ, you probably won't have that problem. But that's what happens as we get older, and it's the end result of the accumulation of body fat. Body fat is feminizing. So for you guys out there who are on the Viagra, if you know what I'm saying, one of the reasons you're doing that stuff is because you're carrying too much body fat. So muscle, on the other hand, produces male hormones, so testosterone. So more muscle you have, the more testosterone, more edge you're going to have. So if that's not a reason to lose weight and to control your blood sugar, I don't know what is.
I'm going to do some push-ups right now. And then we have another question that Albert brought to us from YouTube. Bruce wants to know, what would cause a lesion and bleeding in the stomach? Is it the triangle?
Hang on a second here. Hang on a quick second. I got to call you back, okay? Okay. I'm sorry.
Bruce says, "What would
let me just clarify. I also said testosterone isn't necessarily produced in muscle cells, but the muscle cells are responsive to testosterone. Testosterone is basically made in the adrenal glands and in the gonads.
Okay.
Muscle cells are responsive. I know there's probably some biochemists out there who are probably cringing when I said that. Muscle cells are responsive to testosterone. They don't necessarily make testosterone.
They're not going to we're not going to let people keep your feet to the fire." Bruce says, "What would cause a lesion and bleeding in the stomach? Is it the triangle?"
Well, ultimately it's going to be the triangle, but the direct cause probably has something to do with a bacteria called H. pylori, and it probably also involves deficiencies in stomach acid. So when stomach acid is deficient, bacteria can proliferate. They could be bacteria like H. pylori, as we mentioned. It sounds to me like a gastritis if it's an ulcer. And these days, as many people know, when you have an ulcer, they give you antibiotics. And that's what it sounds like he's dealing with, an ulceration. When you say a lesion, I'm assuming that's an ulceration. When I was growing up, when I was a young pharmacy student, Pharmacist, the number one best-selling drug every year was a drug called Tagamet. And then another drug came out to compete with Tagamet, and every year these were the number one and number two drugs, Tagamet and Zantac. Have you heard of these?
Of course.
Tagamet and Zantac were used to suppress stomach acid. Interestingly, they work as antihistamines because histamine is involved in the production of stomach acid. That's just an aside. So these antihistamine drugs, Tagamet and Zantac, were given for people who had ulcers because the thinking was when you had ulcers, you were making too much stomach acid. But there were these two Australian doctors who said they weren't so sure about that. And they suspected that it was a bacteria that caused the ulcers. And nobody would listen to them because this is how centralized medicine is. And this is how the pharmacomedical model is. If somebody disagrees, first they get laughed at. Then they get violently opposed. This is from a philosopher named Schopenhauer. Arthur Schopenhauer said this. He said, new ideas are first laughed at, then violently opposed, and then they're finally adopted. So these two doctors, they said, no, I don't think it's acid. These two Australian doctors said, I don't think it's stomach acid. I think it's these bacteria, this H. pylori bacteria. Nobody would listen to them. So you know the story. So finally in the 1990s, they actually drank a glass full of H. pylori in the name of science. And they proved, and sure enough, they got ulcers. And that proved that it was the H. pylori that was causing the ulcerations. And today you get antibiotics for ulcers because now it's recognized. Remember, first they're laughed at, then they're violently opposed, and then they're accepted. It's recognized now that it's these H. pylori bacteria, and the antibiotics kill the H. pylori bacteria.
What would we do?
Stomach acid. I would be using things like apple cider vinegar and aloe vera, noni juice, probably the ultimate enzymes. For gut repair, you probably want to do a whole workup and see where the problem's starting, and that's where the triangle of disease comes from. If it's an intestinal issue, if there's food problems, I would start working foods. Metabolic, I-26, absolutely. Nightly essence, good bacteria, ultimate microbiome. I'd need more information than just a lesion or a ulceration in the stomach.
Okay. Last question. Well, second to last question. Individual with liver and kidney transplant rejection drugs doing lots of damage. 60-year-old female, twice jabbed, 120.
I'm sorry, say that. I'm sorry. Kidney transplant drugs, you said?
Yes. Rejection drugs are doing a lot of damage.
Of course they are. Of course they are. Listen, if your kidney is at the point where kidneys are at the point where you needed a kidney transplant, that means you've had serious problems for a long time. The kidneys there's a lot of redundancy in the kidneys because the kidneys are so darn important. Arguably, one of the most important systems in the body. So there's a lot of redundancy in the kidney, and you're not even going to know you have a kidney problem until you're at like 15% or 20% function. In other words, you could lose 80% of the function, you don't even know it because there's so much redundancy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So by the time you have kidney disease, your body, your metabolism has been thrown off for decades. Unless you've been poisoned. There are poisons that can destroy the kidney. So that can do it too. But for most people, it's going to be metabolic, blood sugar, glycation that causes kidney damage. So that means you got to correct a lot of things. Now, once you need a kidney transplant, it's life-changing. It's life-saving, obviously. So now you got a new kidney, you got new foreign tissue in your body. Your body's going to fight that. That's what the immune system does. So now they got to suppress the immune system, and they don't just suppress it mildly. They shut the thing down. They use major drugs to suppress the immune system when you have a kidney transplant or you have any organ transplant. So this is a body that is completely thrown off. How old is this person?
This person is 60-year-old female, twice jabbed.
Okay, so all right, so a couple things. First of all, the jab isn't going to help. It's going to make things worse. The fact that she's 60, that's pretty advanced. Usually it shouldn't happen at the age 60. That means something's been going on for a long time. When you have significant health challenges at a relatively young age, that tells you that the problem has been going on dramatically for a long time. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
When you have a disease, a body that's that broken down at a young age, that means it's been breaking down for a while. It didn't just happen. So there's a lot of things going on with this person. The fact that now she's on a drug that suppresses her immune system, that just compounds the problem. The fact that she's been jabbed twice, that makes it even worse. So we've got a body that's in major distress at this point. So the first thing you want to do is get on the Healthy Start Pack, first and foremost, because chances are if there's long-term intestinal problems, this is a person who's malnourished and possibly severely malnourished, basically like functionally starving malnourished. So the Healthy Start Pack can go a long way. In fact, it's very likely that is this person supplementing at all? Or is she doing longevity?
Being introduced to supplementation.
It will change her life. If she's never supplemented before and she's this broken down, when she puts supplements in her body, it's going to be like when you go on vacation and forget to water your plant. Have you ever done this? You forget to water your plants and you go on vacation and you come home from vacation and their plants are all wilted and then you put the water in and it's like, you can see it. That's what her body's going to be like. If this is a person who's that broken down and not supplementing, remember, the more deficient we are in nutrients, the faster the body absorbs those nutrients. Like a dry sponge sucks up more water than a wet sponge. So this person will notice dramatic results just from the Healthy Start Pack. Now, she'll plateau because there's a lot of things that we're going to have to correct. Get her on the Healthy Start Pack. Stat, right away. Is this a friend of yours or somebody you know?
This is Keely's client.
Keely, get her on the Healthy Start Pack, even if you give her a little BTT for free to see how she reacts. Don't put too much in there because chances are she's got some seriously distressed digestive system. So we want to start with the BTT slowly, but a teaspoon in a glass of water sipped slowly will change her life, let alone the OsteoFX and the Ultimate EFA.
Pharmacist Ben, I know you got to go, so I'll let you go.
Wait. That was good though. I like that.
Well, we have tons more questions, but I'll let you go. But I have
Don't be a stranger. We'll do this again.
I have one last question for you.
Yes, sir.
Because I know that you are an insider.
Yeah.
What are they going to be revealing at the Power of
I'm not an insider, first of all.
You're an insider. You're
just a pharmacist.
You hobnob with the goober smoochers.
I do not hobnob with anybody. They don't even talk to me. I don't. Becca's the she's the superstar. She's hobnobbing all the big shots.
But
they put me on the shelf. They keep me in the basement. They just they release me once in a while.
I'm going to change that. I want to change that, Ben.
I got on some list or something. I got on some S list or something some time ago. I don't know what happened. But I love the people and I love longevity. And I'm here to help and make a difference, and that's what we're all here to do.
And we love you, and we're thankful that you're with us. And you enjoy your travels and travel safe.
Thank you. Good to see you. Bye, everybody.